Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education, and I'm your host, Tim Bogatz. Welcome back to the show. Today we have a new guest on, someone I'm very excited to talk to, and we're going to dive into all things art advocacy. Jessica Stuver is going to be my guest, and Jessica is a KA art teacher from Cleveland, and she works at an IB World School and does a ton of different things with advocacy. She does a lot of great things with her program, but we're going to highlight some of her advocacy work. We're going to highlight some of her Youth Art Month adventures and some of the cool things that she does in her classroom. Now, Jessica is also a very active part of the Art of Ed community. If you are in the community, you've probably seen her before. You've probably seen her posts. She has a ton of stuff that she does there. Love seeing everything that she posts, how she interacts with everyone, how she connects with everyone there. It's wonderful. Jessica's also been to multiple NOW conferences, and she's always talking to people. She's always connecting people. She's always helping people. She's one of those people who just kind of immediately feels like your art teacher friend. You know, she gets it. And the passion she has for staying connected and for sharing ideas really shines through in everything that she does. And part of our conversation is also going to be about the upcoming Art Ed Now conference happening at the end of January. She is going to be presenting on 10 ways to celebrate Youth Art Month with your students. And I know it maybe feels a little bit early to be talking about Youth Art Month, but I think Jessica can make a pretty convincing case that the more planning that you do now, the more prep that you can do now, the more effective you can be when it comes to advocacy, the more effective you can be in celebrating Youth Art Month with your students. So we'll talk about all different ideas, from just those kind of quick, simple wins to much bigger, community-centered projects, and just giving kids the space and time to celebrate their work, to celebrate art, and let all of those things grow. So a lot to chat about today. Let me bring on Jessica now, and we'll get this conversation started. Okay, Jessica Stuver is joining me now. Jessica, how are you?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to have you on the show. So welcome, first of all. And secondly, to begin with, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us about your teaching and anything else that you want to share?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I've been really looking forward to doing this. So, I am a K-8 art teacher in Cleveland, Ohio. My school is an IB World School, so we have a really big focus on inquiry and global perspectives and collaboration. In my art room, I especially focus on project-based learning. I have been at my current school for 9 years, which is really fun because I get to teach the kids from kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade. My
Yeah.
current 8th graders were in kindergarten when I started here. The first group I'm seeing through, it's so crazy. But I did teach high school for 6 years prior to coming here, so I have definitely run the entire range.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. Now, I wanted to have you on because at the Art Ed Now conference at the end of January, you're going to be sharing some ideas for advocacy and for Youth Art Month. And even though we're a few months away, I wanted to ask you, why do you think it's important to kind of start thinking about these things at this point in the calendar? Even though we have a while before Youth Art Month actually
Mhm.
arrives, why should people start thinking about those things now?
Hope I'm not the only one who thinks it's just really helpful to let ideas develop over time. The year that I first decided I wanted to do Youth Art Month, I think I really started putting some thought into it in January. And of course, Youth Art Month is in March. So that gave me some time. And I tuck that idea in the back of my head. And you're doing a really mundane task, like driving home from school or walking the dog. And you're like, oh my gosh, I just had such a good idea.
Yeah.
And I know I know if I had planned things like the last week of February, I know it would have been fine. But I just felt really good about those ideas because I just let them incubate, let them simmer, whatever metaphor you want to go with. And this was honestly something I was just talking about with some of my students, especially with middle school. I try and introduce the project at the end of a class period because that way they have at least an evening or even a couple days, depending on what grade level it is, to think those ideas over. And just earlier this week, I introduced the project to my eighth graders. I think that was on Tuesday. And Wednesday morning, their lockers are right outside my room, so they just invade every morning. I had two, I had two of them come in like, "Oh my gosh, Mrs. Stuver, I got the best idea last night." And then one boy, he's just like, so I was thinking about this all night, but I'm really glad that they have benefited from that time the same way that I do. Some people work really well on a tight deadline. I am not one of those people. And I really like having time to let those good ideas come to fruition on their own, because sometimes the creative process is very finicky. So that is really why I like thinking about that stuff now or a few weeks in advance.
No, I think that's really well said. And, even for people like me who are procrastinators and like that tight deadline, I know that work is better. I know that ideas are better when they can marinate a little bit. So, yeah, I like that approach. And I think that's a really, really good idea. And I think it's a good idea to kind of share it with students in that way as well. But
Yeah.
just kind of thinking about Youth Art Month and for those of us that are thinking ahead at this point, can you tell us a little bit about the presentation and what people can expect to see from you at the conference?
Absolutely. So, my first year at my current school, I decided I really wanted to celebrate Youth Art Month because it was my first time with younger students in my career. And I thought it would just be so much fun. I did not have an elementary art teacher. So, really,
I didn't either.
yes, I know. And they are truly horrified when they hear that information. They
Yes.
really are. So I think one of my biggest goals with this age group is to give them those experiences that I wish I had had at that age. And I think recognizing how important it is for kids to have art and the chance to be creative in schools is a really important thing to celebrate. And I feel very lucky to be in a school that supports the art program and knows that the arts are important. So to be able to tell those kids like, "Hey, we're so lucky to be able to do this and to really spend the time celebrating Youth Art Month," to me, that's been huge. So that was a really long answer. Oh my gosh, to get here. But basically that first year I was at this school, I decided, okay, we're going to celebrate Youth Art Month. So I really consider it a tradition at this point. I change a few things each year or add a few things each year. And it really has just become this tradition that I look forward to, that the kids look forward to. So, what I'm sharing in my presentation is 10 concrete ideas that other art teachers can use in their classroom. While it can be adapted to any grade level, I do think, again, I'm in a K to 8 school, I celebrate it with all of them. These
Right.
ideas are probably geared more towards that age group, but these ideas range from really small and simple displays to things that kids can take home and do and engage in conversations with their families. And also, you get a couple like larger collaborative ideas that can really involve the entire community if you want to. So, my hope is if you've never celebrated Youth Art Month before, that you have at least one or two ideas that you think, yes, that is something that I am willing to try. I do think and hope that there is something in there for everybody.
Yeah, I think there will be. I think there are a lot of really good ideas. I've seen a rough draft of the presentation, so I can kind of speak on that. I love the bingo idea personally, and I know we're putting together a, Youth Art Month bingo card for everybody who comes to the conference, which I think will be really cool. I think people will appreciate it. And all the ideas are great, and not to put you on the spot too much, but I would love to know like which of the 10 ideas that you're sharing is your favorite idea, or which one have you had the most success with or the most fun with out of the 10?
Yeah, it is a hard choice, and I love the Youth Art Month bingo, which you mentioned, but really my favorite, my absolute standout one is what I refer to as the wearable art. So without spoiling anything for the presentation, I basically invite my students to create small drawings. I take those drawings, I turn them into fabric or a wearable item and I wear it to school. And sometimes it's like a quarter zip or a dress or something like that, so I don't wear it
Yeah.
as much. But my apron that I wear in my classroom, like every single day, that was the product of wearable art from a few years ago. And I just had it on, and all the students are just like, I love that drawing. I remember making that one. Who made that one? And it's really fun because it just engages them. It's also like a mini time capsule from that year. Like the kids that I taught, the things that they were most interested in, the occasional meme that you thought would never end but did, but I
Yeah.
have that to remember it by. And they just get so excited about it. And I love being able to feature their art in a way. It's like, I value it and I'm going to wear it. Like, that is how much your work means to me, that I'm going to really hang on to this. So, yeah, they love seeing it. They get really excited anytime I wear one of those items. And I'm also just really proud about how that idea has developed over time. I, like many people, picked up a pandemic hobby, which was for me sewing.
Yeah.
So I did not always sew this wearable item. I used to have kids draw on like a blank article of clothing, but
Okay.
yeah, and it did. It totally worked. But the fact that I get to personalize it a little bit more and I also get to engage in a creative act that I love doing has just been really, it's so fun.
That's awesome. It ties everything together. I really love that. I was gonna tell people, like, if you want a sneak preview, if you join the Art of Ed community, I know you've posted some pictures in there before and kind of talked about
Yes,
that process. And I don't know, it's so cool to see that. I think it's such a great idea, which I
thank
really
you.
love. But yeah, speaking of the community,
Yeah.
I know you're super active in there. I know you've been to Art Ed Now conferences a
Hmm.
few times before, and just thinking about all of those connections, all of those ideas, I want to ask, what do you get? Like, what do you take from those interactions and those connections? And what do you think other teachers can get? How can they help themselves by creating those connections with other art teachers?
Yeah, absolutely. I am such a fan of the Art of Ed community and the conferences. These interactions have just been so special over the years. And I think it's said really often, but art teachers can really be an island, especially at the elementary level. You, like me, might be the only art teacher in your building. And sometimes that's a hard subject to relate to. We have a lot of different weird
It is.
things that come up. So, being able to interact with others and share ideas with like minded individuals, I think is so important. Really, anytime I think multiple art teachers are together, I think of this one experience that I had when I was in college. I got pizza with two of the other art education students.
Okay.
And, we're eating, but then also there's this like textured plastic liner in the box. Most people would think like that's garbage. But no, we're like, we should use this for monoprinting. Or does someone have a crayon? Let's do a texture rubbing. Like, of course, somebody had a crayon. So no one else outside of a friend in art education would be thinking that. And like we were all thinking it, and finally someone said it, like, yes, me too. But I love that because you know what? We just approach things in a different way. And I love that. And to interact with other people so that you're not on an island and to find, your people who also hoard cardboard or also organize everything in their classroom by the colors of the rainbow, or who are all trying to combat their erasers being stabbed. No one
Yeah.
else understands that the way that we do. But also, let's be honest, no one is going to creatively solve a problem like art teachers. So when you do bring a problem to the Art of Ed community, like everyone's going to chime in a kind way, in a helpful way. And I really love that. And I learned so much from these interactions from, art club and pop-up studio in the Art of Ed community, but also from the conferences. I always come away feeling really inspired and I love seeing what other people are doing.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the feeling is something that I don't know is hard to quantify. Like it's hard to put into words, but it's incredibly valuable still. Like you said, when you're on an island where you're the only art teacher there, you don't have those connections, you don't feel understood, you don't have somebody to talk to all the time about, like you said, those specific problems. And so being able to find somebody who knows what you're going through, understands what you're going through can be incredibly valuable, incredibly uplifting, not just, solving the technical problems, but just making you feel better about, the issues that you're facing and what you're going through in your classroom. So I think that's really well said.
Absolutely. And just because you're alone doesn't mean you have to feel lonely.
Yes.
It is so nice to be able to reach out to other people in a convenient way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One last question for you. Do you have any advice that you want to offer other art teachers for the coming months? I know we're in the middle of December right now. It can be a struggle to get through the end of the semester. And then we all know like January and February are really, really tough months for teaching.
Yeah.
Any advice for winter break, for starting the second semester, going to the Art Ed Now conference, getting ready for Youth Art Month, any of those things?
Yeah, I mean, uh, it's such a wild time of year, and I am saying this in a week where I have not had a single normal schedule. Like, all
Yeah.
week, I'm like, I don't know who's coming in, I know I
Is the
switched,
season.
we're good, I'm like, I have it written down somewhere, we're just hoping for the best when they come in. But no, honestly, it can be such a challenging time of year, but I love reminding myself of how I felt when I was this age and how it felt to have holidays or winter break coming up. I'm like, yeah, they're excited. They're kids. They should be excited. So sometimes it can be exhausting being in the same room and feeling overstimulated with that excitement. But that's really what I'm trying to remind myself. I'm like, yeah, they're kids. They're going to be excited. And you know what? We're just like all going to get through it. But really, with all of the months coming up, I just really try and remind myself of two things. And it sounds so simple, but just like making sure that the students feel cared for. Maybe you are transitioning classes, maybe they are really, for the semester, maybe they're worried about finishing the semester strong, and just knowing that you care about what happens and that you're supporting them, I think is really important, especially like these December days, we might not be super productive in class. You might miss 10, 15 minutes off of a class, and maybe that's just not your most productive or educational day. But if those kids feel cared for, I think that's what they're going to take away from it. And the other thing I think is really important is just to take care of yourself, because I mean, I have definitely felt burnout in the past, and I know that it's so easy to let that happen. But to really just make sure that you set aside some time for yourself, because it's not selfish. It's just not selfish to take care of yourself. You can't help other people if you're not feeling yourself. So, make artwork for yourself, read that book that you've been looking forward to, go to the conference and get some professional inspiration, something like that. It's just so much harder to help other people in our people facing job if you're not feeling it
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, if all else fails, my mom was also a teacher. She taught high school English for a very long time, and she always tells me, she's like, "Hey, it's gonna get done. It always gets done. We're not looking for perfection in every moment, but it will get done, and the kids are not gonna know the difference." And I do. I tell myself that all the time, especially during this time of year.
No, I think that's a great reminder that it will get done. But I think that's even better advice for ourselves and for our kids. Take care of yourself, make sure your students feel cared for. I think that's really well said, and I definitely appreciate that advice. So, just thank you for all of that, and thanks for coming on and talking to me. It was great to have you on the show.
Thank you. I so appreciate you having me.
Thank you to Jessica for coming on. And as we kind of wrap things up today, I think it's important to think about all of the ideas that she shared with us, and just the reminder that advocacy doesn't have to always start with, these grand gestures and these huge projects. It can be the little things. It can be the small celebrations that go a long ways. And when you start with intention and planning and just kind of the idea or the belief that what happens in our classrooms deserves to be seen, deserves to be celebrated, that's going to get you a long way. So whether you're looking to start your own Youth Art Month traditions or just, come up with something unique, something creative, maybe something like wearable art, but the conversation today and what Jessica shared today just kind of offer us so many different ways that we can elevate and celebrate our students' work and our student voices. And I think the other thing that I kind of take away from the conversation is just the idea of the importance of connection. As art teachers, we are able to thrive when we come together, when we share resources, and we have, those shared experiences with our own creative thinking. Bonding over the texture in the pizza box is a perfect example of that. But we may or may not be able to find colleagues that do that, depending on our situation. But we can find other art teachers at the conference, at the Art of Ed community, that can share in these moments, that can share in these ideas and kind of understand the struggles and the day-to-day things that we're going through. And just that reminder that we're not going through those things alone. And just before I wrap it up, a quick reminder about the Art Ed Now conference, where, we talked about Jessica's upcoming presentation, and the entire conference is at the end of January this year. And we're bringing thousands of art teachers together online for a weekend of creativity and inspiration. And you can join from your own home, which is amazing. Hey, we'll have live art making. We're going to have sessions from all different types of teachers. We're going to have a keynote on creativity from the author and artist Austin Kleon, and all kinds of classroom strategies that you can use right away, just like what we talked about in the conversation today. And there's also the AfterPass, where you get a full year of on-demand access to every session, every resource. So you can find everything you need and register at theartofeducation.edu/now. Then final thought before we get out of here today. I think we're going into winter break here. We're going into second semester, and there's a lot of planning that needs to happen, but you can also keep in the back of your mind some ideas about Youth Art Month. And so I think the conversation today can give you some ideas for what you can do to celebrate that. But I think there are also some other messages, some other advice that Jessica had that remains really important to take care of your students, but more importantly, take care of yourself. Celebrate what you do. You can connect with and lean on your community, and the reminder that the work always gets done. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to overwork yourself to get there, but that work is going to get done, and that's an important reminder for all of us as we wrap things up here. Art Ed Radio is produced by the Art of Education with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. Thank you, as always, for listening to the show. Please share this episode with someone who might find it worthwhile. And if you're loving the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. That is the easiest way to help other people find the show, and we appreciate all of those ratings and reviews. Hey, we're going to take the next couple weeks off for the holiday break, and then we will be back first week of January with the January mailbag and Amanda Hine. Can't wait to talk to you then.